Welcome, Valerie. I am thrilled to be talking to you today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, could you tell us a little more about what it is that you're focused on right now?
Yeah, sure. So I am a human design specialist and I help women discover their design and really empower them to leverage their design to live in fulfillment and live in alignment so that they can have fulfillment in their lives in all areas, whether it's personal, professional, because once they understand their energy type and how you're designed to be, things just flow a lot more easy and people can have more happiness in their personal life, professional life, all around. So a lot of times I will just give readings where I pull up their birth information and look at their chart and kind of tell them some things. But a lot of times they'll have specific questions and we can go through that kind of more like coaching.
Mhm.
That's mostly what I'm doing right now. So it's fun. I love it.
Nice. I love that. And don't we all want kind of more fulfillment, more alignment, and more ease, I think, from work to life?
More
So
easy.
this is so fascinating. How did you get into doing human design?
Yeah, so I found it a couple years ago and I try to think about when I actually first found it. I don't remember. I just remember stumbling upon it. I've always been kind of that person that likes to take those silly little quizzes, like what animal are you or something like that. I found some other assessments like the DISC and the Myers-Briggs. The thing that I didn't love about them, they were great, but I didn't love that they could change based on how I was answering questions. And human design is purely based on your birth information, your birthday, your birthplace, and your birth time. And so when I found this and I found out that I am a splenic projector, things just made sense. So, little background, I am the mother of 5 children.
Mhm.
And I know that's a lot, but like as you have young kids, when you're trying to raise them, you have so many doubts as a mom. But I just felt so ridiculously broken. I felt like I couldn't do anything right. I couldn't be a good mom. I couldn't keep up with these kids, which by the way, not my type. My kids, almost all of them are energy like sacral beings, which we can talk about, where they have that energy. It's hard for a projector to keep up with generators and manifesting generators all the time. You're going to burn out. So I just felt like I was so seen when I found it. And more I delved into it, and it's a rabbit hole to delve into. There's still so many levels I haven't even touched.
Mhm.
But when I went down that rabbit hole, I just felt more and more and more seen. And just like, oh, there's absolutely nothing wrong with me. If I can just live the way that I'm designed, it's going to be so much easier. And now my kids actually know, oh, mom needs a break. Mom needs, like, I can tell them, hey guys, I got to get away from all this energy right now, or I've got to go, take a little 5 minute, not even a nap, just away from all the energy. And they know, and that's okay. And that it doesn't make me wrong. It doesn't make me horrible for not being able to keep up with them. This is my design. And the more I honor it, the easier things are.
I love that. Yeah, because it's so easy to get into that space of thinking that you're not good enough, not good enough in this area and that area as a mom, in the work, there's always more to be done. So what so I wanted to kind of understand a bit more about your journey. So what did you do before? You started consulting on human design and kind
I was
of,
just, sorry, go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead. Did you want to finish that?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I was a stay-at-home mom for all of this time. As soon as I got married, I'm now divorced, but when I got married, I was a stay-at-home mom, had my kids, and then after my divorce, I was like, oh, I should probably like figure out how I'm gonna sustain myself. And I started a virtual assistant business and was great. That's actually part of my design where I'm very meant to be supportive and analytical and logical and help people get organized. I've always been great at that. I was kind of a secretary and receptionist in high school and college. So I just took those natural skills that I already had. And of course, all of the organizing of just being a mom of 5 kids.
Yeah.
And by the way, I homeschool some of them. So at one point I had all of them at home. So like just the actual like coordination of being a mom, it translates easily into being a virtual assistant. But then once I found human design, I started melding the client's human design with what they needed in their business and how best to help them. Because some people are going to do better with a very rigid structure, very detail oriented, that kind of thing. And some people, which I found are more of the creatives, need to just like go with the flow with their schedule and with their, filing systems and things like that. And the go with the flow people need a lot more base structure so that they can go with the flow. So it was really fun to just meld those two worlds. But the more and more I talked to women, particularly about human design, the
Mhm.
more I just felt this need. Like, number one, it just excites me and I just want to talk to everyone about it. But we need this as a tool to be able to just live our authentic selves and remind women there's nothing wrong with you. You are perfectly designed. There is just beauty in every piece of you, even if you think that it's a flaw, it's not. There are some things you can work on. We're human, right? But I just wanted to talk about it all the time. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to delve full into this human design thing and just talk about it all day long.
I love it. And then once you found it, like, was it a clear yes for you? This is what I'm going to do going forward? Or kind of how long did it take you before it kind of took off?
It took me a little bit. It probably, I would say maybe 2 years ago, I was still kind of struggling with like, well, I don't, I'm not an official, like, didn't get my certification from the International Human Design School. So therefore, oh, I can't do this. The
Mhm.
whole, imposter syndrome, which is a bunch of bull, like I know a lot more than, most people about it. I may not know as much as the certified people who have been doing it for 20 years,
Mhm.
but I still love it and want to impart that knowledge to people. So it took quite a bit of getting to that point, but it just kept coming back to that, going,
Mhm.
I think every woman needs to know about this. Every woman could benefit. I mean, every person, but I just have this heart
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
women, especially moms, because I feel like the society has just put so much crap on us that we
Mhm.
just don't feel good enough. I was recently actually at a retreat where we went around the room and talked about these limiting beliefs. Almost everyone in the room talked about not feeling enough. I'm like,
Right.
this is no, we need to change this because all of those women in that room, all of the women in the world are just beautiful, magical beings. And when we can be in alignment with who we're meant to be, oh, we'll be so powerful and can make such massive impact in the world. So it just became this mission of mine that I'm like, I have to tell everyone and we've got to work on this.
I love that. I love your enthusiasm and your passion. It just like shines through. And would you say then, so what is your purpose at this point of time?
So, purpose is an interesting thing for me because I feel like a lot of times we've been fed this idea that because we're here on this earth, we have to find this one purpose because then our lives will mean something, right? But that's not really it. I feel like the purpose of us is to be. And I know that might sound weird to some people, but in our being, like if we are being who we truly are and who we're designed to be, then it's going to be a lot easier than to share our magic with the world. And that's what the world needs. So that really is my purpose, is to be me, is to just be, not do, but be. And therefore, in my being, my gifts will be radiated from there.
I love that. So we kind of, it brings a sense of kind of calmness, right? Because I mean, just being to just be,
We
that's
don't
what
have to do
we're doing every moment
that.
of this life. There's nothing else. And it kind of gives you the permission that you don't have to strive or be or do anything else than what you're doing right now and who you're being right now.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
told
it's
them, yeah.
not a thing of doing, it's not kind of this one thing
Mhm.
that where you have a better, bigger emotional connection with, that energizes you more than, thing A energizes you more than profession B. You it's kind of like who we are today, who we are being right now in this moment is enough and is perfectly aligned with our purpose.
Right. Exactly. Because we're here. There's nothing that we have to do to prove our worthiness. Like the fact that we are here on this earth in this body, our souls are in this body, means we're worthy,
Mm,
period. End of story. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to prove anything. I mean, would you like to get better? Yes, and become like your most high self? Absolutely. Let's constantly be learning and growing and becoming better and reaching for things. But we don't have to prove to anybody. It's not like if I work harder, then I'm going to be a better human. If I
mm,
work harder, then I can prove to everyone that I'm worth being here.
mm,
It's just not, it doesn't work like that. And the more aligned I am with myself, it just becomes so abundantly clear that I don't have to do any of that. I just need to be how I'm designed and follow my energy the way it's meant to flow. And
mm.
for different people, right? So like as a projector, one of the things that is important for me, that there's a strategy for each type. So there's 5 different types, but there's a strategy for each type. And my strategy is to wait for the invitation. And by
Okay.
that, for you to invite me onto your podcast, that is a fantastic example of me waiting for that invitation, right? If I went out there and I'm not knocking on doors all the time, that's not going to work for me. That's not my energy type. It doesn't mean I'm sitting around doing nothing. I'm still doing the things that I love and talking about the things that I love, but I'm not going actively out there like cold pitching people. That won't work as well for a projector.
Okay.
Now, for generator, manifesting generator, manifester, even, there's also a reflector, but reflector, that wouldn't work for a reflector. But those types of things, it would work better for them. So I don't know where I was going with that, but
No, we were talking about like the whole kind of just being is enough. And it's interesting, it's a great reminder because even I woke up like this morning, right, with this list. Oh my God, like I have to do all these things, accomplish all these things. And it kind of you saying that put me like, huh, okay, we can bring the striving down, like this kind of like needing to make it happen, needing to strive. Essentially, it's striving. I feel like we so many of us strive every day.
it's like you're pushing too hard against the grain. If you're following those things that like light you up, that just make you happy, that's a perfect sign of like, oh, I'm like in alignment, because then it doesn't feel like you might be pushing as hard. Oh gosh, I gotta do this thing because I gotta do the like
Mhm.
when you're not lit up by that thing, things can feel so blah and frustrating. And in fact, that's actually they call it the not self theme in human design. It's kind of like a red flag that you're not in alignment with your design. And frustration is one of them for generators and manifesting generators. For
Okay.
projectors, bitterness. So if you ever
Okay.
feel yourself like getting bitter because you're a projector as well,
Yeah.
that you kind of know it's like a red flag, like, oh, okay, maybe I'm just doing this thing to strive for more. Maybe I'm just doing this thing to push through. And it's okay to have goals, absolutely have goals,
Mhm.
but you're not going to push past your energetic availability.
Yeah.
So let's not push. If you're lit up by the thing, yes, let's go for it. But otherwise, let's not try and prove your worth by doing more. Doesn't make sense.
Mhm. Yeah. And so would it so you're saying kind of what is the baseline that people, would know understanding of human design or maybe some basic understanding, kind of what are some of the fundamentals
Yeah.
that are helpful to understand for people?
So I always like to start people off with their type. Their type is the most important. That's a generator,
Mhm.
manifesting generator, manifester, projector, and reflector. Those are the 5 main types. And then I go to your strategy for each thing, like basically like how we're saying that generators need their, oh no, I didn't talk about generators. I meant projectors need
Mhm.
to wait for the invitation. And then I usually talk about their authority, which is basically how you're meant to make decisions. And then if you feel really good about that, because it takes a while to integrate all that information, then we talk about a thing called profile, which if you look at your chart, which I printed out my chart, not that everyone can see this on the podcast, but like if you see that, it's crazy looking, right?
Yeah,
Um,
there's like
wow.
a human, like upper half of the body and then squares on each side.
So it's actually we've got the Jewish Kabbalah in there, we've got the Western astrology, we have the Chinese I Ching, we've got the Hindu chakra system, like all of these things combined in here to make this. This is called a body graph, by the way. Has lots and lots of information on there, but oh my gosh, I just had a complete loss of what
So
I was.
we just were talking about the different types and the authority.
Profile. That's what I was going to say. The profile. I don't think you can see it on here, but somewhere on here, it tells you your profile, which it looks like a fraction, but it comes from this, like one side of the chart and the other side. There's a number up here. This is
Okay.
the conscious side, or they call it the personality side. And then the red, usually on most charts, is the unconscious, or they call it the design side. So there's just a number here. Mine says 6.4 and this says 12.6. So my profile number is 4/6. So it looks like a fraction, but that's the next like level. So let me start with just like types, just to kind of
Okay.
give a quick overview of what each person is here to use their energy for. Very quick. I mean, I could literally talk for hours just on each one. So I won't take up all the time today. Generators, they're here to use their abundant creative energy to create and work on and build on what they love. It's so important for them to follow their joy, follow your bliss, like Joseph Campbell says. They have got to follow that joy, things that light them up, because if they're not lit up, they're going to experience a lot of frustration. Their strategy is to respond. And that sounds kind of weird, but I like to use the analogy of a dog. I know that sounds so weird. No one's taken offense to it so far, thank heavens. But like if the doorbell rings, a dog's probably going to bark, right? They're responding to that doorbell ringing.
Yeah.
If there's bacon cooking, the dog's going to start salivating. He's responding to that bacon smell.
Yeah.
So generators, I know a lot of generators can get caught up on the fact that they have to wait to respond. It's not really waiting to respond, because there's stuff all around them they can look at, like a Facebook post. Oh, they see something, they want to respond to it, like that it lights them up, or it just makes something inside them, they want to respond to that. There's a job posting, they can respond to that. So there's really things to respond around all over, but they're just such good workers. They have this sacral energy. So one of the centers is the sacral center. It's the second square from the bottom. And if
Okay.
it's colored in, it means that you have sacral energy. Sacral energy is this like life force that you have this go, go, go ability. And I love to kind of borrow that energy when I'm out and about, because I don't have that. If it's white on your chart, it means you do not have sacral. So that's going to be a projector, a manifester, or a reflector. Those are the ones that don't have sacral energy. So it's fun. I can kind of borrow it, but then if I'm around it too much, it makes me like burn out, because I'm just not designed to hold that much all the time. Manifesting generators are a lot like generators in the fact that they've got that sacral life force energy. I have a daughter that's a manifesting generator, and I just call them the multi-passionates. They're so good at what they do. They can do like a million different things, and they can go fast. They have to respond as well. They have to wait to respond, and they've got to be okay with pivoting. A lot of times people, when they see manifesting generators, because they're so good at all those different little things, they're like, oh, well, you're not finishing this. Oh, you're so scattered brained, like whatever. No, that's the magic of a manifesting generators. They can do all these things. And when they're no longer lit up by that thing, don't push through. Don't be striving for all those things. It's okay to pivot, because you need to follow those things that light your sacral, your gut up. So
Mhm.
like the generators and manifesting generators, that's the definition of like trust your gut. They just need to like drop in their bodies and like that yes or a no, and they can just go and do their things. I'm always amazed at the energy. Since I don't have that consistently, I just am so amazed at all that they can do.
So does it
Um,
mean that somebody like that would change their jobs, like professions?
Absolutely. Yeah. So,
Go-
and that can feel bad, right? Like you're like, oh, I can't even hold a job. But if you're going down a road and you're like, this stinks, I hate this, like you have no desire to do that anymore,
Mhm.
obviously within reason, you don't want to go jump jobs every, 2 months, whatever, but find something that then you can have a longer term, like something that you really think is going to light you up. Now, maybe you hop into this thing and you're like, oh, that actually doesn't light me up. This actually isn't as cool as I thought it was going to be. How can we make this more fun in the time that you need to be there? Like, let's say you had a contract for a year and, 6 months in, you're like, ugh, I don't love this. Focus on how you can make the thing more fun. What can you do instead of focusing on how much you don't like it? What are
Mhm.
other things you can do? And what are things you can do outside of work that would light you up? Maybe start a new hobby that you were just like in love with so that while you're at work, you can get the money so that you can fund the hobby.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's
yeah.
different things you can do there. So,
Nice. Nice. Okay, okay. Yeah, I
uh,
was thinking
sorry.
about when you talked about pivoting, I was just it just came to me kind of like does that mean, because I think it's a like maybe just finish what you're, kind of I know you started going through the different types. Yeah.
Yeah, we could talk about projectors next. That's you and me. So it's kind
Yay.
of cool that we are. I love finding other projectors. It's always fun. We're here to guide the energy and other people toward more effective ways of being and more authentic ways of being. So a lot of people will look at a projector for advice. A lot of good like counselors or coaches, things like that have been, I've noticed, not saying that that's the only profession you could do as a projector or that no other type could do that because they are, but like people will look to them to guide. But projectors need to be asked. If you or I would go and start. I was actually just telling a friend about this. My daughter, I'd like to tell her, I like to ask her actually, she's a manifesting generator. I'll say, hey, do you need help? Yeah, I could see her rummaging around in the fridge. Do you need help finding something? Because as moms, I feel like we have this innate knowing of like, oh, you're looking for that thing. It's on the bottom shelf to the left behind that one, the mayo or something like that. We just know where things are. And so I would like to help her be more efficient instead of just leaving the door open all the time. But she just gave me this beautiful gift of knowledge and boundaries the other day where she said, hey, mom, when I need your help, I'm going to ask you because I don't like it when it's like overbearing. It's in my face. It's frustrating. It's like you're bossy and you're a know-it-all. Oh, I'm like, oh, I was just trying to help. I was just trying to help because I like to be efficient. I don't want you wasting the energy by keeping that door open. And I know exactly where it is. So I'm saving you the frustration. But she didn't want that. So it's super important to remember as a projector, we got to sit back and wait. It's so hard to do as a parent. I will say that.
Yeah.
Or a friend. Like if a friend needs some advice, if they haven't specifically asked me for it, I gotta just stop and wait for them to actually ask me for that advice because we have this ability to be able to see this like big picture and how things can be better. And not saying that no other type has, but it's like that's one of our gifts is that we can see that. So,
Be very annoying for other people.
yeah, exactly, exactly. A lot of people think that projectors are just those know-it-alls because they want to give their advice because they do have that special way of seeing things. It's out
Mhm.
of the box and not everyone can see that. So, yeah. Um, let's see. Manifestors. Let's talk about them real quick. Manifestors have this like powerful aura where you can either, it's actually, they call it a repelling aura because some manifestors are so like their energy is so powerful and they may or may not be using it right, but it could repel people. So you either probably love a manifestor or hate a manifestor because they are very strong one way or another. They're here to make an impact. They're here to do things their own way and inspire people to make change. And they don't ask for permission. Like that's not what they're meant to do. They're not meant to be like, "Oh, can I go do this?" No, they get it. They initiate and get stuff done. They need to inform people. Like if you had a manifestor in your family and they were going out doing things, it would be helpful for them to inform you, "Hey, I'm going to go do XYZ." Not to get permission, but just it makes that energetic exchange so much easier for the manifester because then people are like, oh, okay, I know what they're doing. They're not just being crazy and being bulldozing or anything like that. But it's the beauty of a manifester to be able to initiate, and they're very visionary and like big leaders.
Okay.
Um, and their strategy is to inform. Who did I? Oh, I haven't talked about reflectors.
Reflector,
I
yeah.
have not met a reflector in real life, and I am like, I would love to pick somebody's brain if they are a reflector. Like, contact me. I would just love to chat forever. So, Reflectors are like this mirror to the world. They are here to em- like be an empath kind of, but like feel the people around them to gauge the overall well-being of their environment. So environment's very, very important to them. They need, and reflectors actually have this thing where they're supposed to wait 28 days, which is a lunar cycle, for like making decisions, pretty much doing everything. It just gives them time to, with all the moon phases, it kind of activates different things in their charts along the way. And that's how they get clarity on things. So like, oh, I just would love to talk to a reflector. So because
That's a
I'll,
long time, 28 days sometimes. Like,
yeah, can you imagine like having to wait that long to do stuff? Um,
wow.
I can't imagine, but that's their strategy. That's their strategy, is to wait for a 28-day cycle. So yeah, so everyone's got their strategy on how to deal with their energetic type. But there's also a thing called authority, and that's how we're best meant to make decisions. Now, reflectors, that's their authority as well as their strategy. They still need to wait. So if there's a
Okay.
big decision, obviously there are times in our lives where we're not going to be able to do that, right? Like we
Yeah.
can't just wait 28 days. But for the big decisions, it's super helpful because then they can come to a clarity, and be reflectors on their charts. You will not see any colored centers. These are all, the shapes are all centers.
Oh,
You
wow.
won't see anything. They're all clear. They're all empty. They're all white. Um, they're absorbing, those white centers absorb a lot of energy from other people. So like how I was saying with my sacral center that is white on my chart, I absorb and not even absorb. I almost like magnify the energy around me. So reflectors have to be very careful about where they're at, who they're with,
Mm.
because whatever centers are lit up in you and you're sitting next to a reflector having a conversation, they're going to like feel all that from you and then magnify it. So let's say your emotional center, your solar plexus was lit up and you were sad about something, they could then just make it not worse, but like more intense of a feeling
Yeah.
because they're magnifying that. So yeah, reflectors are fascinating to me. It's like very rare to find a reflector. It's about 1% supposedly of the population that's a reflector. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So, let's say I'm just thinking, so if somebody is kind of they know the basics or they understand kind of the basics, they know their type, like you said, and the authority, how can people start using human design and making decisions? Let's say I'm sitting in a job and I'm not quite, like you said, fulfilled and aligned.
Yeah.
How can somebody start using human design to piece their way to build their own puzzle to their more aligned and fulfilling work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that the authority comes in perfectly here to make those decisions, because if you know your type and you're trying to live like that, like one of the big things for me as a projector was learning how to manage my own energy
Mhm.
and removing myself from spaces that were too energetic. Like I knew that if I would stay there long enough, then I'd be burned out. So learning to remove myself and honor those ebbs and flows of my energy, because I'm not meant to have those sustained energy all the time. So that's good, just knowing your type. But then the authority piece is really how you're meant to make decisions. And there's everybody that's different. It'll tell you on your chart, but there's some more specifics that, like, if your solar plexus is lit up, you are for sure an emotional, it's called an emotional authority. I find a lot of people are either emotional authorities or sacral authorities. So I'll talk about that for a second. So the emotional authority is, a lot of people are like, oh, does that mean I cry all the time? No, not really. Just that you've got to focus on your emotions. Actually, if you're an emotional generator or an emotional manifesting generator, you almost have a two-step way to trust what's best for you as far as decisions go. So the first thing, if you have your sacral center defined, you're going to drop into your body and be like, okay, is this like a heck yes thing, or is this a heck no? Like, we got to figure out this full body yes, full body no. And then what supersedes that feeling is then your emotions over time. So waiting for that clarity over time is the most important for an emotional authority.
Mm,
Um, if you can, and I know you can't always do this in any situation, but if you can, try and extend your time that's required for a decision. If somebody comes to you says, "Hey, can we do XYZ tomorrow?" Can I get back to you on that? I want to go check my calendar. Almost like stalling for time, but in a good way, because then it helps you sit with that. Or if it's something farther out, you can say, "Ooh, I'd love that idea, but I'll check with you next week," or something like that. So then you can check in with yourself for the next couple of days and say, like, "Okay, yep, that's still a full body yes. Yep, I'm still feeling good about that." Because a lot of times what I find is that the emotional authorities will say yes to something one day, and the next day they're like, "Ugh, I don't want to do this. This sounds horrible." And they either have to push it and go through with it, or they've got to go cancel their plans, and then people think they're flaky. But if they can have that, create that time for themselves to create space to
mm,
feel into the things, then they'll know. So let's say they were offered a job. They could say, "All right, I'll get back to you in 2 days," or whatever it is, so that they can take that time to really feel into it and to see if it still feels good over time.
mm.
So I
So
know that's
that's
a lot of,
for emotional authority.
that's
Then
emotional authority.
more time to make a decision. What if you're any other authority and like you said, still can go, you get an offer or two got offers and you go back and forth, still depending on the day, like what do you do?
Yeah. So that's
And
been
you
hard
don't
too.
have that clear gut, hell
So
yeah.
a sacral authority, if you were just sacral authority, a lot of times they're called like pure generator or pure manifesting generator. That's what a sacral is. You don't have to worry about the emotional part as much, but you just drop in your body. My mom is actually a sacral authority, and she doesn't understand that concept yet of really like getting connected with her body. She's in her 70s. And she hasn't ever been taught that. Like I feel like now we're getting into the whole somatics and everything, but she didn't understand that. So I've been trying to help her understand that your body is constantly talking to you, but especially if you have sacral authority, that's like the perfect way. That's literally the definition of like trust your gut.
Mm,
Trust your gut. Trust what your gut is actually telling you. If you get a really horrible pit in your stomach when somebody's offered you something or when you hear about something or whatever, that's your body talking to you. Or if you get this like super excited, like, "Oh my gosh, that sounds so amazing. Yes, let's do it." That's your sacral center talking. It's your body talking. So now let's say I have a job offer and I'm a sacral being, I'm a sacral authority, and I've got two job offers, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, both of them sound amazing." Well, then we kind of got to get into like really what is more aligned with what you want, your goals, your visions, things like that. This is where actually your brain can come in handy. Most of the time, I say, "Brain, thank you for trying to get involved, but I need you to go away," because you've got to trust your body, trust your emotions, trust those things. Your brain is there for good things at times, but when it starts running the show,
mm,
that's a really big red flag for you to like, "Oh, wait a second. I need to focus more on like my body," or focusing on whatever your authority is.
mm,
So I would like, in that case, if you have that two amazing jobs, I would, write a pros and cons list or whatever, but
mm,
then really feel into that and be like, is that still like a heck yes, heck no? Like, what am I going to do there? Or maybe both of them are great and it doesn't matter. And the universe is going to support you either way you go, and you'll
mm,
be happy either way. So it's just one of those that, it's never gonna, human design is never gonna put you in this box where it says you have to do it this way or else, and this is the only way that you can be. Really, technically, we all have all the chart, but the way that it's expressed and the way that our energy flows, that's going to be different for every person, right? Now you and me, we're splenic or splenic,
mhm,
to say it all different ways. That is in the moment. So this has been hard for me because I grew up as a pros and cons list girl. And so
mhm,
I always had to think things through, and like my brain would be on overdrive all the time. So that's been a big learning thing for me, how to just trust what I get in the moment. Those intuitive downloads that you just boom, even if they don't make any sense at all. You're like, "What the heck was that?" But knowing like experimenting, really human design is really just a big experiment, is you're trying different things and seeing what works with you based on your type. But for me, the splenic, it's all about your what's healthy for you, and it's like an instinctual, like, can't think of the word, security. What's safe and secure for you and what's healthy. So a lot of times the spleen is so quiet, and it's not like a like a sacral response would be. If it was a sacral yes, it'd be like woo, really big and loud. Sometimes the spleen doesn't really talk very loudly. It's very, you have to really get used to being quiet with yourself, like meditation, walks in the woods, things like that, to really tune in to your own intuition. I think that's for everyone, really, but particularly strong for a splenic authority, because
Mm.
that's how we have to make those decisions. So, if let's say that you had invited me on this podcast and my spleen just, I had this like inkling of like, ooh, and that's it.
Like a
I,
brief hit of you're talking this like brief hit of intuition, some sort of
yes,
like just a
just very,
feeling.
yeah,
Could
it's a
it be a whole body or it's just like a subtle?
depends. I've talked to a couple different splenic authorities, and some people get more of a feeling in the body. Some people just get, it's almost like the clair senses. Do you know about the clair senses, like clairvoyance, clairsentience,
Like where you kind of
like
know, like a
right,
knowing?
right. So clairvoyance would be where you see, right? Clairsentience
Oh,
is you just feel things.
okay.
Um, I'm trying to think of the I can't think of the word
It
where you
doesn't
just
matter.
feel
Is it
things.
kind of a sense
Right.
like that you get ahead of time of something happening, or what's the
Not
difference?
so much of like the future, but just like, let's say, actually give you an example from my past.
Mhm.
One day I was sitting in church, and there was just a word, like a sentence that came to me, go home. And I was like, okay, mind you, I was in my 20s. I'm living my life, having fun, like totally on the other side of the country from my parents. Go home. Okay, does that mean I need to go to my apartment? Like,
Yeah.
what is that? Okay, whatever. I just kind of ignored it. Okay, so then weeks later, get another go home. What is going on? Okay, that's silly. And then it was, so my parents at the time lived in Arizona and I lived in Maryland. And then it changed to Arizona, Arizona. And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
I don't want to go home. I'm in my 20s. I'm an adult. I have my own job. Like, I'm having so much fun and meeting all these people, like meeting all those people. I, I didn't want to do that. And what it came out to was I finally just got quiet with myself and sat and waited for that knowing to come. That's how mostly I feel the splenic authority, is
Okay.
that knowing, where it just pops in my head and like, okay, and go with it even if it doesn't make sense. So the past couple of years, it's been one of my things that I have in my house, just the sign that says trust your intuition even if it makes no sense,
Mm.
because that's how, for some reason, my spleen wants to talk to me. And you might get it in your stomach, you might get it in your heart. There's different ways that people feel that. You may get a feeling or a knowing or a gut response. So it's just it's an experiment, right? Play around with it now that you know, like, get quiet with yourself, go out in nature, you're not going to be able to hear it if you're constantly busy and constantly around people. You need to remove yourself from that situation and just be with yourself, just be, and
Mm.
stop. And that really helps.
I love that. So is it helpful for everybody to be in touch with their intuition, or their answers come, like you said, their own ways, like depending on your own defined centers, which
Yeah, I definitely think that everyone would benefit from trusting their intuition, but the way it's going to come is different ways, right? So, like a sacral being is most likely going to have their intuition come in their gut, somehow in their body. They're going to feel it, whether it's in their stomach, whether it's in their heart, whatever. But that's them practicing and getting into practicing somatics, practicing being in their body, whether that's yoga, going for a walk, doing those things that get you really in touch with your body. You'll know, especially as a sacral being, the body is just, the body awareness is so important.
Mhm.
And honestly, I don't think even with any of the authorities,
Mhm.
um well, actually, I take that back. There is two or three of the authorities that I don't see very often,
Okay.
that are meant to have people, kind of trusted people around them, where they can bounce ideas off. Where,
Okay.
so like, a mental, it's called a mental usually it's a projector that has that's this, but uh,
Okay.
where it's really good for them to just talk and
Okay.
have like hear themselves. So sometimes they can go away and do this by themselves and just, talk in a recorder and then like listen to it or something. But
Okay.
once talking, it actually, the clarity comes that way. Um,
Okay.
and also there's another one called self-projected. Again, I don't see this a whole lot, but again, talking it out, not for people to give them advice at all, but just for them to like, blah, like get it all out because
Out.
they hear it, then it's like the answer comes. Like they know, like as soon as it's hear themselves saying it, they're like, oh, there's the answer. And so that's their form of intuition. So yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. So, because I was going to ask you also, like, so this whole somatic, right, and getting in your body and listening for an answer in your body, I was going to ask you, would it also help projectors or, uh,
Sure, for sure. I think honestly, for any type, I think that we have been so disconnected from our bodies,
yeah.
especially as women, because our bodies are so quote unquote wrong all the time, according to society, right? We're either too big, too small, too made up or too frumpy. Like so many things wrong about our bodies. Things like menstruation, like that's looked at as horrible. Like it's our body. This is how we were made. This is the vehicle for our soul. So I feel like it's so important for us to just treat it with such respect
Mm,
and dignity and love
mm,
that we want to be so in touch because it tells us things all the time, whether you're a sacral authority, whether
mm,
emotional authority, whatever, no
mm,
matter the authority, your body is talking to you. Your body takes in so much from the environment, from society, from your upbringing. There's so much that you have to kind of decondition from
mm,
growing up. And especially as women, I just feel like we have these messages over and over saying, you're not good enough, your body stinks, like it's blah blah blah, all these bad things, and tuning into your body and loving it regardless, I feel
mm,
like it helps every type tune into their own type and tune into their own authority, where then they can make those good decisions because they trust themselves. They're not looking out at other people and trying to get validation from other people. The validation comes from inside because like you are I've heard this, you're your own guru. You do not need to be looking for other people's validation that your decision was correct. If you feel that that's like what your body is telling you, go with it. But
mm.
you got to get to that point where you actually trust your body, and getting quiet and doing those things, whether it's yoga or going out in nature. Those are the two main things that I like to do, or meditation. Um, Doing those things helps you just get so in touch with it, and so much more in love with your body, and then you can build that relationship of trust that when you feel those things, where you feel them, that you can trust those. Like I thought originally, that thought of go home, I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like I was fighting against it and thought, oh, this is just some weird thing that popped in my head from whatever. I wasn't trusting that that was my body's way of telling me something. Now I totally, things pop in my head. I'm like, oh, okay, let's go do that. I mean, not all the time. Sometimes I'll fight against it, but just creating that loving relationship with your body makes everything so much easier, because then you trust yourself, and you can be more authentic when you trust yourself.
Yeah, I think you he hit the nail on the head. I mean, the trusting yourself or not trusting yourself and seeking the advice and the validation and the answers externally through everybody else, like everybody else knows better, and the kind of perpetual questioning of yourself. So I wanted to ask you, how do you find the time for that connection, the yoga, the whatever, the body movement, um the nature, with 5 kids and also working?
So I made it a priority. I knew that that was going to be something that was so important in my development, in my journey, that I I put it in my schedule. And not everyone needs this. My human design chart is actually, it shows in this in a different section that we won't even get into today. But at the very top, you can see like these arrows. And in general, if your arrows at the top, there's 4 of them, if they point left, you're a lot more like logical, structured, whatever. If they point to the right, this is in general, this is, I mean, we can dive way deeper into this, but
Mhm.
in general, if they point to the right, you're a lot more like go with the flow kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
So most of mine point to the left and I need that structure. So like in my calendar day, I have to time block for different things. I time block going to the gym to go exercise or going for the walk on the beach or going for a hike. Those things I have to put it in my schedule or it won't probably get done because then I get busy doing other things, helping the kids with school or drive. I actually, this year, I've got 2 kids in public school and then 2 kids at home being homeschooled. And so just that time of working with the homeschoolers and then going to pick up or drop off the public schoolers, just that. And then trying to work on my business. I have to have this so scheduled. I love my Google Calendar. It's all color coordinated, goes very well with who I am, but I have to do it. I have to put it in my schedule or it doesn't get done. And I know that those things on my schedule are the priorities. That's if they're not on there, they probably won't get done because they're not on there. So
Yeah. And so did you say that the leftover are the more structural or structured ones need the to have this on their calendars, or the more go with the flow need to have this
yeah,
on?
the ones that have more of the left arrows are
Okay.
definitely they benefit greatly from having that highly structured day and
Okay.
lots of details and things like that. But if you are the right facing arrow, it's more of a kind of an overview. Like I need to get these things done this week, but they can be like, or this day, but it doesn't have to be from 9 to 10, or like it doesn't have to be so rigid. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay.
that's another
Okay.
layer that I like to delve into after people have figured out like their type and things like that. So
Okay. Okay. So selfishly, I wanted to ask, when you were talking about the splenic authority, if you are a projector and you were talking about other authorities, kind of the sacral and emotional, how they are kind of how much time you take and everything and how it comes through. But if you're a splenic authority and you still have, like, for example, I have these 2 offers, and literally, I swear, depends on the time of the day, I can get excited and find the pros and get pumped up about each one. And then at the same time, I can question each one.
yes. So the splenic authority, honestly, it's a bit of a trickster when you're learning how to like figure it out because it's in the moment. So like Monday, it could feel like your spleen could be like, yes, we're doing this. But literally the next day, for whatever reason, it could be like, nope, this isn't healthy for you anymore. We're done with this. So it is so tricky and trying to use your mind to figure it out. It's kind of pointless, at least in my experience. It like
Yeah,
doesn't do
because
anything.
I can be talking to so many people, right? And like everybody will have their own opinion, right? And their pros and cons. And like it's literally like a mad house.
And like you for sure cannot trust, well, you can get other people's opinions, but
Mhm.
really when it comes down to it, you've got to get with you and figure out what your spleen is saying. And sometimes the spleen doesn't say anything until you make moves. So like maybe it's not saying a yes or no. And honestly, I would say the spleen says no more often than yes, because it is a center, the spleen is a center about safety and well-being and things like that. So it's usually about a no, that's going to be bad for you. Like you could walk into a restaurant and get just like this feeling like something's off.
Mhm.
Maybe you were going to get food poisoning from the food. Who knows? But like that's your splenic awareness saying something's off here, something's not healthy for you, something's not right.
Mhm.
But so more often than not, I would say it says no instead of yes.
I-
So really just kind of going along with your best knowledge, your best like, oh, that sounds good. I'm going to go this direction. And if you don't get any splenic like, no, that's not healthy for you. Like just keep going down that path. If that's the way that you want to go down, if that's the way that's like making you excited and lighting you up. So
Mhm.
it's been a very, very interesting journey of just trying to figure those up and down of like, oh, it said I thought I was a totally yes yesterday, but now I'm not feeling that. Kind of
Yeah.
like the emotional authority where they've got like these emotional waves that they have to go through. But really, I've kind of learned to just go with myself until I hear a no.
Mhm.
or if it's those weird things like where it says go home or, whatever. But just
Okay.
going and finding those things that light me up
Mhm.
until I get a no, or going those places that I want to go until I hear a no or
Mhm.
feel a no in my body.
Okay,
So
okay.
it is kind of a trickster, I will say though.
Because like I've also had where you know, you apply to a position and somehow like the day you decide to update your resume and apply to something and like you have this like almost anxiety, like
Mhm.
total like, and then you call your friend, you know, and then you're like all like feeling the stress and anxiety in your body like over like dramatizing a whole that could be just a small thing, you know, just
Right?
updating your resume and submitting your application.
And I think that a lot of that has to do with your brain trying to get involved. Your mind wants to get involved and be like, "Oh my gosh, we can't do this. This is so scary. This is, this is
Okay.
unknown." And it's trying to protect you.
Mm,
But here's a great instance where you could go do some meditation, go do some yoga, go walk in nature to get that quiet and be like, "Okay, what is my body telling me? What is my mind like overly chatty because I need to turn that off?"
mhm,
And just really getting back to who you are, who you want, like where you want to be going, what do you see yourself doing?
mhm,
Really feeling into that. And I say feeling generally, but I know it's super important for the emotional authorities, but really for everybody, like you need to know what your body is telling you, back to that whole idea of trusting your body. Instead of doing that freak out, do some breathing. Go do some box breathing where you breathe in for 4, hold it for 4, breathe out for 4, hold it for 4, and do a couple
mhm,
rounds of that. It
mhm,
can just reset your entire nervous system,
mhm.
and then you can kind of think more rationally and feel more rationally and make more rational decisions where you're not just like over dramatizing everything, going, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah, totally. No, I was just thinking maybe if you experience something like that and you have a splenic authority, like you said, that it's mostly kind of comes in when it's a no, or it can be stronger,
Yeah.
easier to hear it when it's a no. I'm like, well, is that a no?
Yeah,
You know, kind
right?
of
You
paying
have to
attention to
learn,
it.
right, you have to learn,
Yeah.
it's really experimenting, trying to figure out like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna go with this. I feel like this is a yes, I'm gonna go with this," or, "I feel like this is a no. I'm gonna leave this restaurant even though my
Yeah.
boyfriend took me here for a romantic dinner or something." Like, I'm gonna trust that this is my body telling me, and I could be wrong, and that's okay to be wrong, but we're gonna leave right now because that's what I'm feeling, and I'm trying to trust my body. And you may have been completely off, who knows? But
Yeah.
just the more you practice and try those things, the more you figure it out, right? The more you mess around, the more you find out. It's just
Mhm.
how life is. You have to try things to then figure out what your body's telling you, what your energy type is going to work best, what your authority is telling you.
Mhm.
Um, just
Yeah, I love that. As you kind of, you said, as you play around and kind of try things and pay attention and have a, you know, awareness, then I guess you build that trust,
right.
right? You build that trust muscle. And how about like, let's say for the people who need to wait for an invitation, but let's say they've been laid off or they need to look for another job. How does it mean that they can't like, do they look at job posts and apply and kind of make it happen themselves, or
If you need to pay the bills, let's not wait around until somebody's like, "Oh, I see that you are perfect for XYZ. Let's hire you for that." If you need to pay the bills, please go get a job. I'm never going to say don't do that. Like if you literally have to go, you're desperate and you need to DoorDash or something, whatever it is, or you don't love your job, but you're not invited to anything else, don't quit. But if you want it, there are people actually that have done, they call it a radical experiment, where they do that, where then they're just waiting around for that invitation. My biggest, I guess, suggestion for a projector in that situation is if you can, if you're have the ability to not be able to be completely broke, like if you can take a pause and just still be doing the things that you love, then by you being you and showing the world, like just showing up and talking, like let's say for example, I had no job, but I loved talking about human design.
mhm,
The
yeah.
more people I talk to, the more people I connect with, um, you show up in the world differently if you're visible, especially as a projector. I think that's the hardest thing for a projector, is to be visible, to
Mm.
show people what you're doing. And then if people know what you're doing, they're they're almost like magnetized to you at that point, because you're doing the thing that you love. Like for
Mhm.
me, I could talk about this all day. I almost actually, I was in an event one week completely unrelated to human design, but I started talking to people about human design. I almost lost my voice because I
Wow.
just like so excited to talk to everyone about it. But and then after that, they knew that I'm a human design person. Like, I love talking about it.
Yeah.
It's almost like who you know, because you have to show up and do the things that you love, follow those things that you love. Just if you love learning about something, that's actually something projectors are really good at, is being really good mastering a system. Like for a while, I thought I was going to be an OBM, an online business manager,
Okay.
uh, because I was really good at like these systems and like figuring out people's how they can have their email sequence, and then this gets triggered by this, and then that gets triggered to that, and like the Zapier connection to this. Mastering that system was like really fascinating for me. Even if I wasn't paid for that, I still was loving what I was doing. And I
Okay.
actually had referrals because I was talking to people about it
Yeah.
when I was a virtual assistant. So like just by doing what I love, being me,
Mm.
just being me and doing those things, it creates this magnetism. And I think that goes for everybody, really, but particularly projectors, because we need to be visible. We need to show people what we're loving. And not even for, oh, I need to make some money, because once you have that like energy about you, it's going to shut down any kind of magnetism towards you, because you're just going to have that like energy of lack and
Mhm.
desperation. And we don't need that. Like, just show the world that you love this thing, or that you love, that you're fantastic at this, or you always want to talk about this, or you want to be helpful and give somebody some advice if they want the advice, like, hey,
Yeah.
I have an idea for that. Would you like to hear it? That's a really good thing for a projector to learn, actually. Instead of just giving the advice,
Yeah.
ask first. Be like, oh, I have a perspective on this. Would you like to hear it?
I
So
like
you're
that. I like
giving
that.
your advice.
I like
So
that. So
you.
how can people use human design if they don't know what is that thing that lights them up? If they don't know, like for you, it's human design, if they have been in a job or last 10 years plus in a job that was kind of more draining than energizing, or they, whether they're in that job, right, that where they are sitting with the question, well, what is my purpose, right? What is that thing that will fulfill me? Or whether they're in a job or they've been laid off.
Yeah, I think honestly, profile would be good to look at here, that fraction I was talking about.
Mm.
There is something further that I don't typically talk about when it comes to life purpose,
Okay.
called an incarnation cross. But I feel like that's doing bicycle tricks before you know how to ride a bicycle. So I don't usually get into that in the beginning. I just like to focus on that type, the authority, the profile. So actually, let's talk about the profiles real quick. There's 6 main profiles.
Okay.
Um, but the fraction looking thing, mine is a 4/6.
Okay.
I have some kids that have a 1/3. I've got one kid that's a 5/1, one that's a 3/5.
Okay.
Anyway,
It's a combination of two numbers.
combination of all those. So there's 12 possible, combinations there. So I don't want to go over all of those, but
Yep.
let's go line by line. So like we call it a line. So line 1, if you have a 1 in that fraction looking thing,
Yep.
first number that you see is going to be conscious, from the conscious side of your chart. And that's going to be something that's more familiar to you. It's going to feel more resonant with you. The second number you may not resonate with, because it's an unconscious, from your unconscious part of your chart. But doesn't matter. You still have these energies in you. So like if you have a 1 in your profile, I call this the researcher. They are designed to just be learners. They have like this insatiable curiosity,
Mhm.
um, and they need that curiosity to just dive deep into all areas, asking questions, learning new things. They always want to know what they're talking about, and that's almost their like language of love. So if you have a 1 in your profile, a lot of people I've seen, especially a lot of moms, they're all the planners. They have like um everything researched about the vacation they're going to. They know exactly what hotel, they've researched all the area, they've researched everything, because it's the way that they can show love to their family. So it's kind of fun. But yeah, that's the researcher. They just dive deep into stuff.
So let
if
me
you
ask you this, does it mean if somebody has a line one, they in this insatiable curiosity, is it beneficial for them to switch, kind of change jobs, or kind of always have with certain, after a year, I think people like I can say that I get bored.
yeah.
Like after a year, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for something new. Like, is it something that needs to
You
be?
own your profile?
I think I have a 1-3. So,
Oh,
but like
okay.
I was just thinking, do somebody has a line one? Do they need like new environments, new
Wouldn't say
position?
necessarily. I mean, it potentially could be if they get tired of that kind of research in that
Okay.
area.
Okay.
I wouldn't say necessarily, no.
Okay.
A line two, if you have a two in your profile, I call this the quiet genius. Things just come like easy to them. And they need opportunities to apply these like natural gifts that they have and share and teach the skills.
Okay.
Um, they're kind of really good being left by themselves to just learn the things. They can observe people and just figure things out, even without a formal education. So it's really important for them to share what they're learning and how they're watching other people, because people are gonna like be magnetized to them. They're like, man, I really like what they're doing. They just make it seem so easy. And to let it be easy for them, because a lot of times people with two, they're like, oh, I don't know how to do it. I just do it. Like it just comes so naturally to them. But that's something that they need to just delve into. And then the things that come naturally, they can easily teach other people because other people want that information.
Okay. Amazing. Sounds amazing.
Yeah. Number three, I call this the scientist. So if you have a three in your profile, you are this. I love saying scientist because I think of this like mad scientist where they are doing all these experiments. They're trying this, they're trying that. Their lab might be crazy, messy, and a disaster or something, but they're trying different things and they're gathering this data so then they can look at that data and see what works and what doesn't. And then they can tell people all about it and be like, okay, this is what I did. This is what worked. This is what didn't. They can teach people. So really, it's about getting in there. And a lot of people say trial and error. I don't like trial and error. I like trial and data, because anything you try, you're just getting your hands messy and you're finding things out. It's kind of like that whole overlying thing of just human design in general. I feel like people need to experiment with it, but don't avoid the messiness. Like that's actually your gift to the world, is by trying all of the things, finding out what works, finding out what doesn't. And then you get to share that. It's a gift for the world to share your messiness, for lack of a better word, just trying all the things. Try all the things. You're here to explore and experience and learn and grow from those experiences. So, yes, it's very frustrating as a parent, I will say though, because three of my kids have this in their profile, and actually four of my kids have a three in their profile. And it's a lot of them trying stuff that I may or may not like. So, but I know it's important. They need to do that. So,
Yeah, I can see that because like even like you're talking about human design, and I've tried like strength finders and kind of just in these self-assessment systems, because I believe I have the line 3, then I can see kind of what works from each one of them.
yeah, exactly. And take what works, and then you get to share that with other people. Like you could even, let's say you're a coach and you want to create a course because you already know what got you from point A to point B. Like you did all the middle millions of things, and now you can connect it from A to B instead of going all these little dots along the way. And you can then teach people much more quickly, and people will pay for that. People like that. They don't want to have to go through 12 months of trying to figure something out themselves. They
Mm.
are willing to pay. Most people are willing to pay to have that shortcut from A to B. So you can benefit from that as a business owner to then share your knowledge, because it's a gift to the world again.
I love that. So line 4.
Line four. So I call this the networker. So your network is super important to you as a four. Community and connection, they
Mhm.
just pave the way for sharing of ideas. You know people, you know how to tap into networks and tap into people. You can, if you need to, you can activate this network and create opportunities. The success will actually come from your network, meaning your friends, your family, your acquaintances, colleagues, business partners.
Mm.
Who you know is is quintessential for this. It's so important. It's about who you know and what like who knows what you do,
Mhm.
because then that's where your success is meant to come from.
Mhm.
Um, the network, it's not so much about like, going to like networking things and you're like,
Yeah.
hey, Valerie, blah, 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 blah. It's not about that. It's about creating those connections with people, getting connected, getting really to know that person, whether it's, oh, that person is definitely who I need to talk to for copywriting. Oh, let me connect her to this person, and like being able to be the connector for people.
Mhm.
That's a gift of the four. So um a lot
Okay.
a lot of business that I've had as a four in my profile has actually come purely from talking to people. That's how you and I got connected, is a friend had told you, and like
Yep.
it's nothing I went out seeking, but that's literally probably 99% of my business comes from my network talking about me.
Mhm.
So
Lovely.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
fascinating.
beautiful.
Yeah.
5.
All right, the five. I call them the visionary leader. Fives sometimes get a bad rap because you can either love them or hate them. They can kind of be the savior in some instances, and then the next day they could become the devil because they get projected upon a lot. They're
Okay.
really meant to heal people and serve the world by reflecting what that other person is seeing or feeling. They can see the potential of other people, but sometimes they get disappointed when they don't see that potential being lived up to. They can see the world in like really fascinating ways. Like they can solve problems very creatively, but practically. Um, but a lot of people will project upon them. And so they'll be like, oh, this person's going to be the answer to all my problems. And then when they find out that that person's just a human being,
Mhm.
then they realize, oh man, or like in a dating situation, even you could
Mhm.
be in love with this guy, and then if let's say he's a five in his profile, and like, oh my gosh, he's just going to be like the answer to like, this is my heart and whatever.
Mhm.
And then you end up breaking up and you're like, oh my gosh, I hate him. He did nothing for me. I don't know. That can
But
be
even
an
in a coaching like even like let's say if you're looking for better work, more aligned work, right? And you hire a coach because you could project the same thing that that person will give you all the answers.
exactly. And so you could that coach could be your savior, or it could be
Yeah.
the
And you
devil.
can turn when you're like frustrated that you're not still getting
Yep.
whatever you're looking for. So yeah, totally.
Yeah. But they're a powerful visionary. So yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
All right. Number
Number
six, the wise owl is what I like to call this. Now they have different names in like official human design, but I like to name them something else. Um, so the wise owl is all about really wisdom. So it's the six actually has three separate phases of life that they kind of live through. The first, like, and I'm doing ish when I come to ages here, but let's say 0 to 30-ish age, they are living as a three line where they're trying all the things. They're in the messy middle, they're trying these things. Then from about 30 to 50-ish, they call it going on the roof in human design, where you're kind of pulling back from everything and getting more into an observer mode and just looking at people, at things, looking back maybe what's worked in your business and what hasn't, or in your life, and kind of pulling strategies from those experiences so that when you go forward, you can use that wisdom basically. So from 50 on is kind of, and I say 50-ish, I should say,
yeah.
that's where I say they become the wise owl. People look to people with a six in their profile where they have all this wisdom because they've been through all of these things, kind of like the three line, right? Where you get to teach all of this after everything you've learned. But the six needs opportunities to share their insight and their advice and their guidance and their wisdom. It's like you're striving for this just I can't think of a word, just perfection, I guess. But it's important for a six to be able to pull back and not always be in things like they maybe were when they were younger as a line three.
Mhm.
Um, Take the higher view so that they can kind of see a bigger view of things. And I feel like there's more wisdom in that because you're not so myopic looking at like the one thing. You can see this big picture. And so you can get more wisdom from that. And that magnetizes people to you when you can do that, because then they're like, oh, you have all this wisdom to share. Like, oh, you're like a guru here, but you're your own guru. But anyway,
I need some of that. Yeah, I love that. So what if people like I'm just sitting here and even though I think I'm a 1-3, I'm like, but I have this. I have also that, like the networker or the
again, we have all the chart. All of us have all of the chart. We are just going to have the things that are more defined. So like the centers that are colored in, or the gates, these like the numbers on there are called gates. That's a whole nother delving into. But those things are going to be more consistent energy for us. So
Mm,
there are things called transits. If you're very familiar with astrology, I am learning about transits, just the way that the planets are in the sky at different times of the year. They're going to kind of activate different parts of your chart. So you may not have something normally in your chart. You may not feel that energy typically, but then during a transit where, let's say, I'm not an astrologist at all, but let's just say Pluto was in gate 51
yeah,
or
you
something.
hear this like, yeah.
Exactly. So then you'll know that something's going to be activated that may not be typically there for you, and you'll feel that energy more strongly. So it's
Okay.
interesting. We have it all, just that we're going to have more consistent things about our chart than other people. Because, yeah, there's things that I'm like, oh, yeah, I can totally relate to that. Oh, but that's not my type, or that's not, my gate or whatever. But
Yeah.
really, it's just if we can look at the basics of like, this is our aura type, that this is how our energy is supposed to be managed.
Mhm.
And those other things I feel like are just like little bonus things, like, oh, well, I get to feel like this today. Okay, that's kind of fun. I've never felt that before. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's just like a stronger theme, like a
Mhm.
more kind of highlighted or something that you lead with. How did you find human design, and was it in line with your strategy and authority? Or kind of how in line was it with human design?
Totally don't remember exact. I feel like it was on maybe one of those like business conference kind of like online thing where they have a bunch
Mhm.
of different speakers come in. I feel like that's how I found it, but I honestly don't remember.
And so you might have clicked like an ad or
Right.
something and went
Like
down the
click on
rabbit hole.
something, or somebody sent me like, hey, sign up for this thing. I don't remember at all. I
Okay,
do
okay.
remember once I was like, what is this thing? And I looked it up, and I was like, I'm a projector. What is that? I didn't like the name of it at all. I was like, that sounds horrible. What is this stupid thing? So, but then I was curious, and actually, funny enough, I actually have the channel of curiosity. So the curiousness is always big on me. Like I love to just find out things like, oh, that makes me super curious. What about XYZ? And I'll go then down a rabbit hole sometimes with that. But it's
Mhm.
fun because then I can see if I like that thing and I want to continue learning about it. Or if I don't, I've just satisfied my curiosity by finding out, a one-line answer. Thank heavens for like Google and Alexa and all that, that I can just quickly ask. So I don't have to go to the library or, look it
Yeah,
all
yeah,
up.
yeah. No, totally. We're so lucky. So how would you leave, like if somebody is looking for that more aligned work that will leave them more fulfilled and is searching for it, how would you recommend or what can they take from human design to get more answers?
That's a multi-layered answer, I think. I feel like the more that we can be in alignment with who we're truly meant to be, things become easier, and therefore our purpose is then kind of um, portrayed to us. That's not even the right word I want, but it gives us, if we're on that right path of being, figuring out our type and trying to live according to our type. Because if I'm still, as a projector, if I'm still trying to keep up with all these sacral beings, I'm probably gonna be in the hospital, and I'm not gonna be able to do anything because I'm gonna be so burnt out. So just even that, just knowing my type and actually living the way that I'm designed, and then adding into that the way I'm meant to make decisions. When you marry those things become easier, they become more aligned, and it's like that they will show, your purpose will show itself to you in that process. So you don't have to go like searching for it. It's kind of hard to search for something when you just need to be it. And that sounds,
I
I'm
love
not
that.
saying
That kind of
everyone
brings
wants.
us full circle.
Yes, right?
It brings us full circle.
You can be in alignment with your type. So like really focus on, there are a million things we could talk about that can still lead you to your purpose. There are things in there about like your Mercury on how to talk to your client. Like there's so many layers. But in the very beginning, I don't like overwhelming people with the insanely overwhelming amount of information that they could. I mean, I've only been in this for a couple years and I still haven't even delved into all of the depths that there are here that we could actually address with things like purpose or career or any of that.
Mhm.
But knowing your basics of your type, your authority, and even your profile,
Mhm.
really living those things and being those things, that's what's really going to help you find your purpose, because when you're living in alignment, it becomes easier. You're on that road and I really do believe it'll be shown to you. You don't have to go searching for it. You just be who you are, be who you are designed to be,
Mhm.
and your purpose will show up. It will show itself. It will reveal itself to you.
Reveal.
Yeah.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
that. Valerie, how can people find you and follow and connect with you?
Yeah, I am on Facebook and Instagram. I it's a weird Valerie Crandall is whatever. On Facebook, I'm Valerie Patterson Crandall. That's my maiden name is Patterson. Or they can just shoot me an email at hello@valeriecrandall.com. I'm more than happy to chat with anybody.
Love that. And I'll include it in the show notes. I think you sent me, with a about information. So perfect. People can connect with you through the links in the show notes. Thank you so much. I could keep talking to
I
you.
know, that's what I'm saying. Like I could talk about it forever. We could go on for hours and hours and hours. But thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate being able to share this with everybody.
Thank you. And you're amazing. Your passion and enthusiasm shine through. So I highly encourage if you would like to find out more about your design and get some of the, answers you're looking for revealed, then reach out and connect and follow Valerie. Thank you so much, Valerie. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.